I want to welcome you to another edition of Guidance for the Soul. And I want to talk about the vibration of change. This was part of a discovery of change, right? This is the discovery of change. When we talk about the vibration of change, it's very limited in that idea of what a vibration versus the frequency versus the discovery of change. Most people who unite under one do indeed come in that vision of my frequency or my vibration is of no consequence at this point in time. I vibrate in the beauty of all. So therefore, when I say that this is a discovery process about what that means, it is not one note of change. It depends on what kind of change we're talking about. But the nature of seeing a vibrational shift in the vibration of Khand, it's like the Condoleezza Rice energy is going to come through at some point again. I'm hearing from various souls. What happens when I step out onto the stage and people start to say, but wait, I know more about vibration and frequency than you do. Okay, this is not about saying there's only one vision of what a guided session would be about. So if you have more information about frequencies and vibrations and spiritual enlightenment, by all means, invite your vision in and let's join with those who love who they are. But we're going to talk about in the nature of many. And that's what that vision really is for. Is that idea when we have a huge group of people who are saying to themselves that there is a particular person in office potentially or some other movement. That's what we're talking about. We have a lot of movements that are coming out of, the vision of society, right? United we stand and divided we fall. Does a movement change the frequency of every soul within that vision? Think carefully. Most people are not vibrating in the frequency of just one movement. They have their lives that they live. They may think about that topic every so often. Does it in fact raise or lower their vibration if they meditate? Okay, I want to talk about what that means. Okay, so if I sit and I think about the news, is that a lowering of my vibration? It can. How you handle the news is mostly where that rise. It's like the rising tide of awareness would say, don't watch anything, it's all garbage. That's what a lot of souls are going to say. If you want to go into that higher realm of understanding and loving all, you would definitely be partaking in that vision, right? Not even close. See, most people are in that vision of I just align with the beauty of who I am and I focus on my own soul first before I go out and try to change others. Now, this is not about saying you're changing someone else's mind, are you? It could be an idea that we place forward versus I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, right? What is change? See, others would say, I'm just going to be beautiful in who I am, and those who want to come along with me, feel free to do so. We're not here to think alike, are we? You see, that's the difference. How many people are saying there's a difference between the idea of changing what we see on the outside versus the change that I inhabit when I vibrate in the beauty of love. Okay? There's a difference in the internal vision of change versus the external vision of change, right? You start to vibrate in the beauty and see beauty in everything when you go to the vibration of love for all. It doesn't mean you have to like everything, but you understand that nature of, I love the fact that I'm still here, still creating, still seeing the wisdom of all souls coming together, holding the frequency of love for myself and others online. How many people say it's easier to connect with people online than it is in person these days, right? And others are saying it's a detriment to the soul, right? Oh, that frequency is bad or evil. See, when you rise in the vision of love, you wouldn't be calling people evil necessarily unless you were in, certain spiritual paradigms or certain religious aspirations. And other people, they could just be people, they just say that word for no reason, right? It just means, oh, I don't like you very much at all. Versus trying to put people into that category and hoping that they have to spend eternity in some kind of prison in their minds. Okay, some people are getting offended by the vision of devil worshippers, right? What are they actually worshiping? They assume they're worshiping an idea. It's a concept laid out by certain souls to give them credence for their vision of destruction. How many people would say they have destructive visions in their minds or even in their dreams? Do you want to know who those souls are? See, that's not what we do. We don't vibrate in the beauty of love if we're in the heavenly realms, crossing over to another realm of development, right? So this is about taking that nature of change and applying it to our own hearts and saying, if I want to see a change on the outside of my world, right? Like outside of who I am, I might need to adjust the vision of who I think I am on the inside. Did I do the work of the devils where others are going to land when they see some of my work? They're going to want to know. How would you know? Okay, so let's talk about that vision of how we create. See, if most people aren't even in the idea of our thoughts are creating our reality, they wouldn't even be able to comprehend the vision of love for all. Because in their minds, they're still in that vision of there's these evil people in the world. Okay, there are people who are here doing destructive visions. Okay, and there are people doing a lot of atrocities too. So I'm not going to tell you not to label people X, Y, or Z. That's up for you to do. But when you go to that highest vision of one and all, then it becomes a little ridiculous for most people. And so that's why, in essence, we talk about the differences in our frequencies, because we do have that higher vision of love that doesn't let go of who we are. Most of us are just vibrating in the beauty of the moment with whatever vision we carry for the most part of our lives, right? We often adjust our vision depending on the circumstances in which we find ourselves. When we decide to look into the mirror, for instance, and see ourselves as beautiful rather than as gorgeous, see, it's not about looking in the mirror and saying, this is who I'm projecting myself to be, am I? Am I saying, oh yeah, that feels good, I'm happy? Or are we saying I could have done a better job in my life, projecting my vision of love for everybody else? It's not about saying, I love you to all souls, except that's what we do for the most part. When you have your heart handed to you by your soul, right? Your soul will always go to bat for you. That's your vision of who you are from various levels of understanding. The multidimensional aspects of who we are will be determined to be, some people will say it's not really worthy of their vision at this point in time. Others are going to say, no, I want to know where those other visions of who I am are and what they're doing, and how can I bring that vision into me, into my awareness, and how can I make sure that I integrate that vision so that it's a beautiful vision, one and all. So there are various visions of who we are here in this plane of development and others as well. And when we rise into those higher visions, we start to create from a higher vision with others who are also creating from a higher vision of, well, it could be light or love. Some people are in that vision that light and love are one and the same. Others will say it depends on the vision and who's creating it. But usually in that moment of prayer, others are in that mode of prayer, and they would be more in the alignment of, I need a prayer said for somebody else. That's someone else I know who is always saying so-and-so is needing a prayer because they haven't lifted themselves up yet to the idea of what it is to be kind in the mind. Be kind to your minds, right? So this is where we often say, don't be afraid to read anything or watch anything. We know the vision as higher level visions that you are not intending to hurt anybody. If you watch a movie that has a graphic plot to it, it might affect your dreams. It might affect your reality in another plane of development, but it's not going to be felt as if it is the reality that you reside in here. It doesn't mean you have to create with it on it's like the subconscious level, right? It's more than subconscious. It actually creates a vision of destruction from it's like the similarities in your soul spheres. Okay, so we're going to start getting a little bit more technical and nuanced when it comes to the variances of wisdom that can come through. Now, when I tell you that the United States of America has its own vision and creates with that vision of it, it doesn't mean that we are separate from other soul visions. For instance, does it matter what everyone in Russia or China thinks about us as a country? Right? These are those characteristics. It depends. Are they constantly in their mind thinking about us as a country? Or is everyone going about their day thinking, oh, this is beautiful. I'm doing my work. I'm doing my children's vision. I'm doing, my family vision and whatnot. And I'm visiting with friends and coworkers and whatnot. That's the reality of most people's lives. So who are you creating with most? And what kind of wisdom are you bringing through in that vision? Now, when you start to impact other people by saying, I love you, I'm just not agreeing with your methods of prayer. That's another vision that I did. What did that do to my vibration? By asking a simple question of someone who literally was like, wow, that's a great question. We always assume that prayer is of the highest. You're asking to change me, right? Not even close. Most people are praying for their hearts or for certain things to be changed in their life, and they're hoping someone out there is listening to them. Who are they praying to? Others will pray to specific visions, like specific angels, their vision of God, their vision of Jesus. Most people don't even think to say, hey, I want my own highest vision as who I am to come through for me, line me up with my wisdom, and start handing me my hearts. And that means guiding me to those souls that can handle that kind of wisdom. Okay? The wisdom of the moment doesn't mean it's always going to resonate with all souls. Just because it's all doesn't mean it's going to resonate with all souls. It's about understanding that there's a love for those highest of realms. And when we say that it's just love for the most part, then people start to tune out because they say, but that's not getting me where I need to go. I need to know what I'm doing wrong. That's what a lot of people assume if they start having a hard time in this world. It's not about right or wrong. It's about where you place your focus. Now, when people say, I get to place my focus on my family, and my family is all that and more, that's where a lot of people are. They love their families, they love their friends, they love their coworkers, right? Maybe they don't. It depends. This is where those creative concepts come in about let's joyfully ignore certain people and take others into our heart. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story about Jesus, right? This is what I was told. It's basically one of those visions where I heard the tones this morning. I get those higher visions sometimes brought to me as a tonal bit of wisdom, which lets me know that those higher realms of love are coming through for me in a moment of despair, right? It's usually like, hey, there's something going on, or there's something that you're watching or experiencing that needs to be addressed. And I will put that audio out. It was not a video, it was an audio only. Now, what I will say is that certain parts of it were a little scattered. What you're going to start to understand is if I'm dealing with multi-personality disorder, some people say it's multi-personality disorder. It can feel like that for those of you starting out. It's not that for the majority of the people now who are starting to go through that idea of I'm on the spiritual path. Or maybe I'm not on a spiritual path. Maybe I'm just in my faith and I'm starting to open up to the beauty of who I am from various levels of understanding. Now, if you join with the idea of Jesus and his idea of prayers, you would start to understand that many are starting to hear the wisdom of another soul making its way through in the name of Christ. Now, in that soul's vision, he will be known, as we have stated in the last video, as the sacred warrior. Okay, that's the energy of bringing through that vision. Now, what that vision is one of those ideas of change. He's going to be looked at as evil by certain souls of prominence in this worldly affair, because it will be of a worldly understanding. Okay? He is known as Paul by Americans for the most part. He will also rise in the vision of love for all souls. What he will not do is deem himself less than anybody else either. That's the beauty of light. Okay? We tap into those souls of future who are going to make an impact in this world as well. If you want to know what it's like to do a psychic vision of love, come on over to my vision of, I'm going to have an online Zoom session where we're all going to be able to interact with each other to a certain extent, but for the most part I will bring through those visions of love and guidance. Now, how many people want to know what that vision of psychic feels like for Brenda? I literally tell her, write this down, and I will keep bringing forth words of wisdom repeatedly, and it could be for months, sometimes years. And she doesn't write them down, but she always knows when they're there. Usually it could be within a week or two. She's very good at deciphering the ghost letters that some people are writing. I want to talk about people who are saying, I want to hear about the ghost. When you get to that vision of ghost, I'm going to have another vision come through. Most people who are on the spiritual path are not really in the vibration of ghost. It's more about going in and dealing with your own visions of, well, whatever badness or whatever you think. Or, we call it shadow for the most part, but it's honestly, you don't even have to go down that path. Let's go down the path of love and enjoyment and keep envisioning that vision. Let's not focus on the negative so much. Let's focus on the positive. If you have this idea that you're going to be bringing through ghost letters, that's where people start to write down things from their memories about those souls that caretake their hearts. We're not dealing with ghost on Channel for the Soul. Okay? I'm not inhabited by a ghost. I don't bring that vision in. I don't bring in the vision of anything but loving guidance. Everything that I do is under the umbrella of guidance. When I come on the screen, it is definitely of guidance. Now, is there anything more that we can add about the vibration of change? Change depends on our visions. And when we say, are we not happy with our vision of what we're seeing? It is so very true. We start on the internal, but we realize that the majority of the people envision the world in a better place, right? We have to assume that that vision is already there before we can actually create it. So if you don't imagine the beauty and the love of a system of government that is so filled with value and fortunate beings, right? These are the values that we're holding very strong. So if people are assuming that the way to create a better future is to invoke the name of those souls who don't hold those highest of highs in their minds, you would have to understand the nature of love from John Kennedy. Okay. And he was one of those visions that was trying to come through this morning for me as I was vibrating in the vision of watching other souls align themselves with someone who has a beautiful soul but has been decidedly, let's just say, not enlightened by his vision of presidency at the moment, right? This is not about Joseph Biden. Okay, but he does in fact pray to that soul, very much so. And we would say it's that vision of Congress and our president are not aligning on the visions of what? This isn't about trying to bring forth the vision of John F. Kennedy at this point in time. But it's that vision of what happened to those visions of love for members of society that held their hearts here and not up here. Okay, so we hold our hearts here and we say, does this man or woman represent the value system that I want to see in my own children? When I look into the face of my children, would I say this is the kind of person that I would want babysitting my child? Would I look to this person that's going to open your eyes to how many people would say, no way, Jose, to certain people. Now we have to think, why or why not? This is the nature of who we are. If we don't look at ourselves as like the children of the world, and we've got someone who's literally got their fingers on the button that could end it, we need to think carefully about us as children, right? Basically going, here is this person who has been deemed of the highest. He's literally got that button in his hands, right? Not anymore. I could tell you about that. I was hearing about that. But it's not about saying that it's a bad thing, but this is about telling people, it's like if you're in that method of I'm of the highest, you don't even question who's in the office of the United States as president. You assume we created that vision for a reason. It shows us who we are in one way or another. Most will say, I don't want to align with that vision. It could be any president, past or present. Now, when you do that vision and say, do I trust this man or woman, right? Because we will at some point have a female president. Then we would say, why are we aligning with those who are okay with that vision of I'm going to be a destroyer in my mind? Do I represent those visions of the highest in my own mind? So for me, I have to go to that vision of I understand soul level understanding, and I just assume they haven't reunited with the highest vision of who they are. I still have a couple visions left to go before I rise into the vision of Christ as he was known. That's where that vision of Paul comes in. Okay? Many of us who are starting to align with the visions of those who are supposed to come in to change the tide of awareness to one of love. Just because I'm aware of a change doesn't mean I dishonor it by saying, thank you very much, I'm not going to participate with that vision. Okay? But it is going to be a big change in the next generation's lifetime for sure. Okay? I hope I'm here to see that one. And I don't want to demean people, but I really am. Sometimes it's almost like looking at the world like we're a big movie and going, goodness gracious, look at all the drama that's going on. I see the beauty. I can unwind anything very fast to see the beauty in the world. So I don't dwell on the negative, and I don't let the news take me down very much. It's hardly at all, to be honest. I like to be informed versus, well, that's another vision of what's the difference between I'm informed versus I'm aware. I'm informed that there are various opinions flying around left and right all over the place. It doesn't matter what you talk about. There will always be others there to say, I have more information than John F. Kennedy about his life. That would be his wife, right? How many people know that's not how it works? We don't just align with their vision from who they were here. We give them a higher vision of love. It's not to demean anybody. It's to bring them into that vision of love for all souls. That's the ultimate of ultimates. If you can make it to that, you're going to fly high. Okay. So with that in mind, because I'm going to keep this a little interesting, I want to say I love everybody. Now, when I say that, does that make everyone uncomfortable? I would be calling you, well, some people say, I'm going to call you a liar. I know you're not going to say I love you to my face, right? I do to many people. I'm not that person, though, in essence, but as a soul, I would say it. I would say I can do that work very easily. What I know is that in essence, most people do not align with that vision of just going out and telling everyone that they're loved. We send it on a signal, though. When we walk around in our minds, are we telling people, I love you, I love you, I love you? Not usually. We're usually just going about our business being happy, right? Are you happy when you're out and about doing your thing, talking it up with strangers, being friendly to those people you don't know? Or are you making snap judgments about people based on the color of their skin, maybe the clothes that they're wearing, or some other physical aspect of who they are, without even taking the time to get to know them? And this is the challenge for most people. We make snap judgments, and we don't even allow the beauty of love to come shining through. Because that's what most people do. When they get around people that they like, they start to shine and they start to vibrate in the beauty of it. And so what does that say to those other souls who are saying that's a bad person based on some other criteria that they have created in their mind? This is what we have to kind of unwind as we vibrate in those higher visions. We don't allow others to come in and tear us down in our minds. We say, I love who I am. I'm sorry if you're not there with your own mindset. That's the nature of it. And then you say, ooh, but what about these other people that are causing me so much, mental strain? And don't let it bother you. We start to unpack the vision of how do I deal with difficult people? Okay? It can be the biggest challenge ever. Okay. Then there are people who do this vision, which is like Brenda. Okay, we're going to talk about this another time. She's like, I just go and I try to understand people. Doesn't mean I agree with them. Doesn't mean I like them. I just go, man, I understand. If I was in their shoes, with their life, with their choices, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Okay, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt that they're on their own path doing their thing the best that they can, given what they're doing and knowing from their plane of whatever plane of existence they're living on, right? How many people are like, I'm in the heavenly realms, right? No, you're not in the heavenly realms. You haven't passed on to the next level of understanding for the most part. That happens when we discard this vision of our body. But we can go visit those souls. It's a matching of vibration. Now some will say, oh wait, what does that mean? Does that mean that my realm here isn't the best? Wouldn't you want to create that beauty here instead of waiting until you pass? Just because you exit the body doesn't mean you lose the vibration of love. By the way, most people don't know what that means, because when you free yourself from the body and the conditioning of a lot of this stuff here, you may choose to create more havoc than you wanted to. But it's not about telling people what is or isn't of heaven. For our purposes, we just use anything that feels like a higher vibration and loving. Okay? So it might be a trigger for some people. They would say, I don't want to do that vision of heaven because it's of religion or of faith. And others like, I'm going to vibrate in the beauty of dimensions and realms and frequency. And that's where a lot of us are going. So I'm not going to demean the vision of religion by saying there's something wrong with their ideas about, heaven and hell, right? It's not bad that you create that if that's what you're worried about. What we're trying to say is that there are people who absolutely feel like they belong in that place based on what was brought to them in their mindsets, or those that created that vision with their soul and others. So they will get an experience of that to relive in the moment, right? No, it's not about spreading the fear of it. Most people rise very quickly out of any detrimental vision. It could be of suicide or whatnot. It takes a little time to get back on track with life. But we're going to get there. Some of us are a little too flighty in our visions. Some people say, my visions are too confusing. They're not meant to be handed to you bit by bit, are they? At some point, we start to come through with those higher level wisdom sessions that will enlighten you to a much greater degree, depending on how many people are going to invoke, those visions as their own understanding. A lot of time it's about just coming together and saying whatever vision of love that you carry in your heart and your mind is just fine. It doesn't mean that we align in the same kind of understanding about how we create or what we create or what we should create. But it's still an honoring of the vision of, if you're good with you, I'm so happy for you. If you're feeling great in life, I'm happy for you. If you're struggled because of conditioning visions going on, then yeah, we have some work to do, right? And it doesn't mean it has to be difficult in the mind. It can be. It could be making a switch in our prayer circles. Others are going to prayer circles. I'm hosting a Zoom session via Meetup, okay? So if anyone wants to join, feel free to contact me through Facebook or Twitter or, Instagram, whatnot. And just let me know if you want to join. And you can come on in and we'll all have a ball. Because that's basically the focus that I'm trying to create is one of, let's look at life as an adventure filled with wonder And the detachment from our vision of life has to be drudgery. Life doesn't have to be drudgery. Let's lift our spirits into a better view of being beautiful for who we are. Not as others would say we need to be, but who we are on the inside. Sometimes I come through very feisty, and others will say I'm ignorant about certain aspects. I don't claim to have it all figured out. I never will. Neither will anyone else. So those of you who say I have it all figured out, good luck. I can unwind just about any vision that people try to throw through. And everyone who's on that path of all would understand that vision of it's impossible to have it all figured out if you're not already riding that wave of I arrived as a soul on this planet. And that's the nature where all of us are. Right? You see, there are others who are saying they're not in that vision of soul. So or they're in the vision of other. So that is why you can't say everyone has it all figured out, or anybody does. Because we're creating from multi-generational visions, multi-level understandings, multiple visions of birthings of species, right? There is so much expansion in our consciousness as a spiritual alignment versus I'm in the religious realms and all I'm wanting is to make sure I get to the heavenly realms. That's where a lot of that vision is. So that's a beautiful vision. I can create that for certain souls who are like, I just want to make sure I make it to the other side and I'm going to be okay, right? I'm not going to be in the realm of the devil, right? Just because I had those thoughts. No, I will ease your mind. It doesn't work that way. We've got a lot going on. So anyways, I want to say thank you again for watching. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening or day, depending on whenever you're watching. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care and have a great evening. Good night.